Lascaux, a complex of prehistoric caves in southwestern France, adorned with magic paintings showing symbolic imagery of the lives of the prehistoric people on this continent. Lascaux, superior artists' colors for the imagery of today and tomorrow. This film offers an insight into the production of Lascaux paints and the spirit that underlies these colors.
Mein Vater war gelernter Maler und Gipser und hat sich immer schon für die
My father was a skilled painter-decorator. He was keenly interested in the materials he used and in the craftsmanship. He was always looking to see what could be done better, what could be improved. Back in the 1950s, he developed a water-based emulsion wall paint, which in those days was a completely new technology. It so happened that his artist friends encouraged him to develop a water-based artist paint. At that time, painters only had oil and tempera paints. They were very good paints, but the range of uses to which they could be put was rather limited. So my father came up with the first artist acrylic colours on the European continent.
Künstler-Acrylfarbe auf dem europäischen Kontinent.
Amongst his acquaintances was the famous Zurich painter and graphic artist Richard Paul Lohse. It was he who developed the first colour chart for these paints. Of course, that appealed to a lot of contemporary artists, including Gottfried Honecker and Max Hunziker.
Your father created something of a sensation by coming up with a paint that dried faster than gouache or oil, and was light-fast and easy in its application. The paint could be used for all kinds of techniques. It could be applied in thin glacés, as well as heavy impastos. That was a new thing in those days, compared to oil, gouache, or watercolor we all used then. The new acrylic colors fundamentally changed the way we painted. I'd also like to add this. To a large extent, the paint you use determines the final result. A red oil paint, a red gouache, and a red acrylic are not at all the same thing. Each one of them imbues the canvas with a different sensibility. I remember Alois coming up with the initial samples of paint and saying, "Give this a try. Find out what you can do with it." All my work since then has, until recently, featured Lascaux paints. I never tried anything else. I took them with me to Paris and New York, too. Those acrylic colors have been a real kind of blessing because they dry so fast, unlike oils. My daughter's also a fan of Lascaux and still uses them in her therapy, I think.
Mehr Farbe machen. Ja, genau. Da musst du nicht so arbeiten. Ja, genau. Das ist eben nicht so.
It's not so that the quality of paint doesn't matter when painting, but rather the people are more content when they use good paints. They paint more satisfying images for themselves. That's really important when you're working with children. There's a tendency to think that a simple watercolour paint box is good enough for children. The point is, especially people who aren't familiar with paints need to be given really good ones. Another great thing about Lascaux is the range of colours available. It's a real luxury having so much choice. They're good to start painting with, and that's really important, especially in art therapy. Everyone finds what they're looking for with these paints.
Diesen Farben kommt jeder Mann, jede Frau zurecht.
How the name came about is a great story. It was inspired by a good friend of my father, the artist Max Hunziker. He paid a visit to the Lascaux caves when they were still open to the public. And he was so struck by the caves, by the paintings, these first images of mankind, that he suggested my father call his new range of colours Lascaux, because he made colours to be used for the symbolic expression of our time. So that's how the name Lascaux came about. My mother helped my father in the company from the beginning on. She issued the invoices, kept the accounts, and gave him moral support. My parents had little money, but lots of enthusiasm. I remember it clearly. When I was a child, I was always around, even at weekends, when my father went to his small workplace. I also helped stick the labels on the tubes. I helped my mother put the invoices in the envelopes. Later, when I went to school, that's how I earned my pocket money. The first customers were the artists. Then it broadened out to include the graphic artists, art teachers, therapists, followed by colour designers, architects and interior designers. In terms of geography, there was also an expansion. First Zurich, then Switzerland, Europe and overseas. My father never rested on his laurels. He was always experimenting and developing. Some of his friends were art restorers. In close collaboration with them, he developed products for painting and paper restoration.
One example of this is the humidity chamber, which provides a controlled, humid environment for artworks on paper. Lascaux has since supplied this in-house development to numerous museums around the world. Restorers can obtain another speciality from Lascaux. Jun Funori, a water-soluble adhesive substance based on Japanese red algae and purified using a special process developed in Switzerland.
Jun Funori
is used to preserve and consolidate matte powdering paint layers and can be used as a cleaning agent in some instances. It can help remove tide lines on polychromy applied to wood or on paper objects. The Swiss National Museum and the Swiss Federal Laboratory for Materials, Science and Technology, EMPA, spent a long time researching and developing the product. And Lascaux declared an interest in acquiring the process. It's manufactured here now, which means it's available to us restorers.
From its earliest days, Lascaux specialized in aqueous systems. In other words, all our paints are water-based. We take great care with the water we use. For instance, we use only water to clean the machines and equipment, no chemicals. And the water we use is prepared in a treatment plant specially designed for our needs. That means the water is clean when it leaves our house.
Das Wasser, das unser Haus verlässt, ist also wieder ganz sauber. Ich bin in einem Farbtopf aufgewachsen.
I grew up in a paint pot. As a child, I did a lot of drawing and painting. I had the privilege of working with these wonderful paints. And it was on this path I continued later. I lived in the USA for almost 10 years and studied painting and humanities. I came back as a painter. I never lost touch with my parents. On the contrary, my father and I kept a lively contact. He came to visit me many times and we developed new products together. For instance, I suggested the product Structura, an extra lightweight modelling paste. The reason being that the textured grounds I was using at the time for my large-scale works made my paintings unbelievably heavy. So Lascaux developed this lightweight modelling paste. When I returned to Europe, I knew I would be able to reconnect. And shortly before my father died in 1995, he passed the company over to me. I was determined to run it in the same manner as he did, maintaining a focus on quality, craftsmanship and technical expertise, also integrating my own. As a woman, I allowed more feminine qualities to enter the company, a certain subtlety and spirituality that is inherent in all arts.
Das Feinstofflichere, das Geistige, was ja auch die Malerei innehat. Das Interesse reflektierte sich dann auch in der neuen Name.
This new aspect led to the expansion of the name to Lascaux, the spirit of colours.
Was sinngemäß heißt Geist oder Seelenleben der Farben. Und in dem Geist entwickelte ich dann
The Sirius primary system is born of this new spirit. It's an expanded colour system based on 5 primary colours, whose frequencies are precisely aligned, allowing the mixing of pure and harmonious nuances. They can be used to easily create the entire colour spectrum.
Wenn ich die 5 Farben von der Sirius zusammenmische,
Lascaux runs regular workshops for children and adults.
dann habe ich ein ganz schönes Schwarz am Schluss. Jetzt ist es schwarz. Und wenn ich jetzt das hier drauf tue,
Wird es noch mehr schwärzer.
dann wird es noch schwärzer. Genau.
Ich habe es so fest rundum gemacht und es ist halt so schwarz geworden. Oh oh, ich glaube nicht, dass es Loch gibt. Oh, das sieht man ja von der anderen Seite. Lustig.
Inspired by my background, I developed the Resonance product line. These are paints enhanced with bioinformation, designed to support the creative process of painting and to encourage the soul's expressive potential, also exerting a positive effect on the viewer of the finished work.
Wenn die Bilder gemalt sind, hat es eine unterstützende Wirkung.
For its customers, Lascaux has color charts and application samples designed along artistic standards. Lascaux would not be Lascaux if the creative restlessness of its founder had not permeated the team running the company today. Lascaux continuously analyzes the shifting needs of its customers worldwide, in particular artists, but also remains sensitive to the way the meaning of color changes in society and in education, while keeping the constantly changing demands of the market firmly in its sights. Manufacturing today means innovation as a constant challenge. Lascaux works with interior designers on color schemes for public buildings and premises such as restaurants, like the Tibbet's vegetarian restaurant in Zurich. Do school buildings have to be grey? Mused architect Patrick Muir and artist Peter Rösch, and turned to Lascaux. The results achieved at Scher's School in Zurich leave nobody indifferent. Lascaux products are used in architecture as well as contemporary art. Artist and studio are the two Lascaux lines used all over the world and found wherever artists live and work. Thanks to the high concentration of pure pigments and selected copolymer binders, they're extremely rich, luminous, light-fast, and age-resistant.
The impact of colour on the spiritual development of the individual is a concern of mine. To further explore and research these connections and to sensitize public awareness, my husband, the artist Werner Schmidt, and I established the Lascaux Foundation. In this context, we organize lectures, symposia, seminars and concerts at which we introduce audiences to the idea of the importance of colour for their holistic development. We also want to establish a dialogue between disciplines which are still separated, such as art and science, art and economics, physics and metaphysics. We're seeking to incorporate them into an integral view, a unity.